Hey guys, Kevin with Jeep Goldblum here. I got the Maximus 3 side ladder that I'm going to be installing on the Jeep JL Wrangler. Nice thing about this is it allows allows a lot more access to the Rhino-Rack that I've got installed. The only issue is this isn't really made for the Rhino-Rack backbone system, which has these brackets on the inside. So we're going to kind of work through that, and hopefully we can get some spacers in there and make it work. I've actually prefabricated some small brackets that will make up the space that I need. We'll get into that later. We're going to measure 60 millimeters back from the middle mounting point of the hardtop. We also measure 20 millimeters from this edge of the hardtop edge, or 38 millimeters from inside, but that's hard to do with the Rhino-Rack bracket or backbone bracket in place. So what we did was measure 20 millimeters from this edge. That got us this point, and then we're going to measure 274 millimeters from this point forward, and that gets us our front mounting point for the side ladder bracket. We've already marked the back mounting point that we're going to have to drill. Now we're going to measure the 274 millimeters to the front. So then we're measuring 20 millimeters back from the edge. Alright, we have our two drilling points. Alright, so we're going to kind of just back check where we put the holes. We know that this faces out the opposite way, but it's looking good. So this will eventually kind of be this way and obviously at the side of the vehicle. Next thing we're going to do is actually drill some pilot holes into the marks that we just put in there. So I'm going to use a 3/16 bit for my pilot hole, and then from there we'll drill 3/8 holes. But it says to be very careful about drilling too far into the tub because there's different wires and things in there, so I'm going to try to be as careful as possible. One thing I'm going to do is use a center punch to mark the pilot hole locations before I start drilling. Always good practice. Now that we put our center punch starter holes in, we're going to start with our 3/16 bit, drill straight down. So now that we've got some fiberglass dust, we're going to clean that up as we go. Alright, so now that we've got the 3/16 pilot holes, I'm going to start the 3/8 inch holes. I've looked at the cord here. Looks like I can avoid it just by being careful. This other one, the cord goes kind of down below over here, so I can be a little bit less careful with the backmost hole. Okay, got some holes. Or a hole. So as you can see, these wires are very close to where we need to drill. So my pilot hole was fine, but we need to really be careful about that. I might even put a little piece of protection there. So we're unbolting the hardtop right now. It's 6 bolts in the back, 2 in the front, and because I have the Rhino-Rack with the backbone system, there's an extra set of bolts in the middle above the back doors. So we've shimmed, we've put the bracket in here, as you can see here. But we noticed that there's some kind of metal bits on the sheet metal hanging out, so I'm going to take a metal file and file it down. Pretty good there. So I actually have this strong magnet that holds on to the nut so I don't lose it. That's not going to work. I think I'll just put it below it in case it falls. So we've got the shim in here, we've got this just hand snug, but we need to lower the top back down now that we've got the bracket in there. So we'll do that now. We're bolting up the hardtop again now that we've got the bracket in. So on my Jeep, since I have the Pioneer rack with the backbone system, there's another bolt that's right here that attaches through the roll cage that I had to undo. So on top of the 8 that they tell you to undo and put back on once you've put the bracket in the slot there, you have to undo the 10th or 9th and 10th bolts as well if you have the backbone system. Alright, so now we're tightening up the nylon nut. Feels pretty tight. Okay, I think we're tight. So now we're going to test fit this onto the top of the Pioneer rack and see what kind of gap we have to fill, since this is a different height than the normal Maximus rack or mounts. So kind of there. So I can measure it, but it's about a 1/4 inch gap right now. I have an 1/8 inch spacer, and I might just make up the additional gap with some 1/16 inch washers on both sides. But it's not too bad, not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So yeah, let's try it out. Wasn't so bad. Okay. Alright, we're going to leave that pretty loose now that it's on there. So I'm kind of measuring now that I know the kind of the dry fit. It's about 11.5 millimeter gap, which kind of sucks. So I'm gonna have to fill that up with some spacers. So after a lot of work on this, we've got it kind of hand snug right now. We had to make another spacer bracket down here. Each of them is about 1/8 inch, so we've got 1/4 inch plus one washer on both ends. So it's about, what was that, 5/16 ish gap right there. That made it so that these nuts that came with the package did not work, which meant I had to run over to the hardware store and get longer bolts that would fit. And we got everything in there, tightened it down. Now we're just kind of really tightening it down. So I've got this elbow bit that might help. We'll see. It's a little bit too tight for my drill to fit in there, and it's going to take forever. to do it by hand. Let's see. Let's see if that worked. Solid. So here's a little zoom in. I'll probably touch up some of that. I've got some Mopar touch-up paint. That should work nicely. But overall, pretty happy. Maybe would have chosen some shallower bolts, but I didn't want to go back to the hardware store a third time today. Alright guys, you can definitely install the side ladder with the Pioneer roof rack and the backbone system from RhinoRack. You just have to put some spacers in, tighten up the bolts, maybe get some different longer bolts down here, but otherwise it worked out. Thanks.